playing the games, which he did a lot with the police.
That was the voice of a man who called himself the Zodiac Killer. He's talking.
The Zodiac Killer remains one of the most chilling unsolved mysteries in American history. A shadowy figure whose crimes grip the public in fear, leaving behind a trail of cryptic clues and unanswered questions. What drove this elusive killer to taunt police and the media with coded messages? And why, despite decades of investigation, has the Zodiac's true identity never been uncovered? It all began on the cold, quiet night of December 20th, 1968, when high school sweethearts Betty Lou Jensen and David Faraday parked their car on a lover's lane in Benicia, California. The couple had been on their first date, blissfully unaware that a sinister figure was stalking them in the darkness. As they sat in their car, a man approached with a gun. In a matter of moments, the peaceful night turned into a nightmare. Jensen and Faraday were found brutally murdered, their bodies lying just feet away from each other. This was the Zodiac Killer's first known strike, a seemingly random act of violence that would mark the beginning of his deadly spree. Months passed with no answers, and then, on the night of July 4th, 1969, the Zodiac struck again. Darlene Ferrin and Michael Mageau were enjoying the holiday festivities parked in a secluded spot when the killer returned, this time more brazen and bizarre. He approached their car, fired multiple shots, and vanished into the night, leaving Ferrin dead and Mageau critically injured. This attack solidified a pattern, but it also introduced a disturbing new element. The Zodiac was evolving. Unlike most serial killers who follow a consistent modus operandi, the Zodiac thrived on unpredictability. His actions defied logic, creating a deadly game where he always seemed one step ahead. One of the Zodiac's most infamous ciphers, the Z408, arrived in 3 parts, with each section sent to a different newspaper. While police and professional codebreakers struggled to solve it, 2 ordinary citizens, Donald and Betty Harden, took on the challenge. The couple's breakthrough decoded the Zodiac's twisted philosophy. He claimed that killing was better than getting your rocks off with a girl. But while the cipher revealed glimpses into the killer's mind, it offered no clues about his identity. The Zodiac was not merely playing a game. He was toying with an entire city, feeding off the fear and confusion he sowed. On September 27, 1969, the Zodiac took his sadistic game to a new level of horror. Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Shepard were enjoying a day at Lake Berryessa when the Zodiac, this time donning an executioner's hood, approached them. Armed with a gun and knife, he tied up the couple before brutally stabbing them. The killer then calmly drew his now iconic symbol, a circle with a cross through it, on their car door and left, believing he had claimed 2 more lives. Miraculously, Brian Hartnell survived the attack, providing crucial details about the Zodiac's physical appearance and his unsettling behavior. But still, no closer to catching him, investigators were left piecing together patterns and trying to profile a killer who refused to be predictable. The Zodiac's next victim would break all previous patterns. Paul Stein, a taxi driver, was shot in the head on October 11, 1969, in the middle of San Francisco's bustling Presidio Heights neighborhood. Unlike the Zodiac's earlier attacks, this murder took place in a densely populated area, right in the heart of the city. The killer even took a piece of Stein's bloody shirt as a trophy, later sending it to the police to prove his identity. It was a bold and terrifying escalation that left investigators questioning the killer's motives. Why had he shifted from isolated lovers' lanes to the urban streets of San Francisco? Was this a sign of his growing confidence, or was it a deliberate attempt to confuse and mislead the authorities? As time went on, the Zodiac continued to taunt police with more letters and cryptic clues, even threatening to shoot out the tires of a school bus and pick off the kiddies as they come bouncing out. The Bay Area was gripped with fear. Schools implemented emergency measures, and parents were left on edge, terrified that their children could be the next victims of this deranged killer. Despite the increasing number of clues, the Zodiac remained elusive, his identity as enigmatic as ever. And then, in a bizarre twist, a man claiming to be the Zodiac called into a live TV show hosted by attorney Melvin Belli. The man, who identified himself as Sam, rambled incoherently, and although many were initially convinced that this was the Zodiac himself, further investigation revealed that it was nothing more than a hoax. This false lead only served to deepen the mystery and underscore the chaos the Zodiac had unleashed. In 1970, the Zodiac sent what would become one of his most infamous puzzles, the Z340 cipher. For more than 50 years, this complex code baffled the world's best cryptographers. It wasn't until December 2020 that a team of amateur code breakers finally cracked the cipher. The message was chilling, but provided no clear answers. "I hope you are having lots of fun in trying to catch me," it read, a taunt as cold and mocking as ever. Yet the decoded message did not reveal the killer's identity, leaving the most crucial question unanswered. Who was the Zodiac? The Zodiac's reign of terror expanded beyond San Francisco when Kathleen Johns, a young mother, was abducted on the night of March 22, 1970. After accepting a ride from a man she believed to be a good Samaritan, Johns quickly realized that her life was in grave danger. Her abductor drove erratically, making veiled threats until she managed to escape with her baby in tow. Although she later identified the Zodiac as her kidnapper, no solid evidence could tie him directly to the crime. Once again, the killer had managed to slip through the cracks. Over time, several suspects emerged. Arthur Lee Allen, perhaps the most infamous, was heavily scrutinized due to his eerie behavior and disturbing connections to the Zodiac's timeline. Friends described Allen as someone obsessed with the Zodiac case, and circumstantial evidence pointed to him as a viable suspect. But despite all the suspicion, no concrete evidence ever linked Allen to the murders. And as with many of the Zodiac's supposed identities, Allen's guilt remained a subject of speculation, never fact. As the years wore on, other suspects like Richard Gajkowski and Earl Van Best Jr. came into the spotlight. Each had their quirks, their mysterious ties to the case, but none could be definitively linked to the Zodiac's horrific spree. With every new theory came a new dead end, leaving both investigators and the public frustrated and hungry for answers. The Zodiac's legacy became more than just a criminal case. It became an enduring enigma, a puzzle that has tantalized true crime enthusiasts for decades. To this day, the Zodiac killer remains an unsolved mystery. His cryptic letters, his cold-blooded murders, and his uncanny ability to disappear without a trace have cemented him as one of America's most infamous serial killers. Despite advances in forensic science, new DNA techniques, and decades of investigation, the Zodiac's identity continues to elude us. The Zodiac was more than just a murderer. He was a master of psychological warfare. His crimes created a ripple effect, leaving behind not just a body count, but a legacy of fear and fascination that endures. For many, the quest to uncover the Zodiac's identity is as much a part of the story as the killer himself.